Hello everyone and welcome. This video is going to be a very brief overview of the Procreate app and is mainly for people who aren't familiar with the app or who are absolute beginners. This is the first video in the series I'm making about this app, and they will get more complicated and in-depth as we go on. So those of you who already know about this app and have already used it for a while, don't worry, I've got videos coming for you too. This app is only available to download on an Apple iPad device, so if you're not a fan of Apple or refuse to buy an iPad, you're not going to be able to use it. It can be found on the Apple App Store. The current price at the time of filming this is now $12.99. There is also a smaller version you can get for the iPhone called Procreate Pocket, and it is currently $5.99 on the Apple Store. That version has some of the features as well, but on a much smaller scale because you're using your phone instead of an iPad. For this video, though, I am specifically talking about the full iPad version and not the iPhone version. I actually don't really use the iPhone version personally. Right now on this video, I'm just scrolling through Procreate's website. So that's www.procreate.com. There's lots of good info there, including a full guide to using the app. So I highly suggest reading through it. The Procreate app was made specifically for use on the Apple iPad. Always double check that the iPad you have or the one you're planning to get is compatible with the Procreate app. Most are, but some of the older iPads aren't. And you can double check on Procreate's website to make sure you have an iPad that's compatible. Like I said, most of the new ones, you generally don't have to worry about that. Those are all compatible. But you will also get the most functionality out of the app if you also have an Apple Pencil. There are currently 2 models of the Apple Pencil available. Trust me, I know this is annoying, but you also have to be careful about making sure you have the correct type of Apple Pencil that is compatible with the iPad you have. Personally, I currently use an iPad Pro, the 12.9-inch one, and it's the 4th generation, and I have the 2nd generation Apple Pencil. I also do have a 1st generation Apple Pencil that I used to use with a different iPad, but I no longer have that iPad that supports it, so now I have an Apple Pencil that I can't use unless I get another iPad. Maybe I'll get one for teaching rather than work, but we'll see. But make sure you know which iPad goes with your Apple Pencil, that if you're looking to buy yourself these, don't make the mistake of getting the wrong one, because you'll be in trouble. You can find that information on Apple's website. They will always have the most updated information about what you need there. They're very good about updating their website when they need to. And you don't absolutely need an Apple Pencil to use Procreate. You do need an iPad, though, as I said. But you can use a third-party stylus or your finger for the app, but you won't get to use all the features. Most notably, there's pressure sensitivity supported features in the app that the Apple Pencil, again, it's meant for the Apple Pencil. There are pressure sensitive styluses, or styli actually, I know my Latin nominative plural noun declensions, okay? I didn't waste a year taking Latin in college. I know what I'm doing. But anyway, there are non-Apple pressure sensitive styli available, but they don't work as well with Procreate. This is what I've heard. I've never actually tried any of them myself, but I tend to believe it's true. I think it's best to just get everything that's meant to go together, even if it's a little more expensive, but that's me. But I say your best bet is to get an iPad, the compatible Apple Pencil, and the Procreate app from the App Store. And I know what you're thinking. OMG, that's so expensive. Hundreds of dollars for an iPad, depending on which one you get. $99 to $129 for an Apple Pencil, depending on which one you need. And that's the current price, because the next one will probably be more expensive. And $12.99 for the app. Pretty expensive. Is it really worth it? Well, the answer is, it depends. If you're going to use these things on a regular basis, like I do, then yes, absolutely. I didn't have any qualms about paying this to use it. It's worth it in my opinion. Everything works well, and I have use for, the functionality of the app. I use it all the time, personally. Not everyone has to, but I do. If you're not going to use it all the time, then it's probably not worth it, honestly. So I'm making this video to kind of give you an overview of what it is and what you can do with it if you're kind of on the fence about getting it, and help you make the decision about whether or not it's going to be worth it for you. So let's get started. The version of Procreate I have downloaded onto my iPad at the time of filming this video is version 5.3.1. Any versions after this may be slightly different and may also have additional features that I don't go over in this video. I will try to keep the description of the video updated as new features and updates roll in, and maybe even make another video later. And I'll always link that in the description. So depending on when you're seeing this, right now, if you're seeing it while it's being uploaded, then, this is as updated as it is right now, but it could change. So again, look in the description for anything new. All right, I'm just going to show you a few things. Let's go into Procreate. So I restored the original artworks that comes with the app on here when you first download it. This is stuff that I've made. We'll get to that in a minute. But, so when you first download Procreate for the first time, it's going to give you, they may not look exactly the same. They change them from time to time, I think. But it's going to give you a few sample artworks that people have made. And this page, when you first open up, is called the gallery. So there's a couple things we can do here. I'll just show you. I'll just click on one of these. Shows you the painting. Now, if you go back to gallery, it'll take you back to the gallery, I think. There we go. So there's a few things you can do on this screen that I kind of want to show you. So let's select and then hit one of these. So once you do that, it gives you a couple options up here. So you'll see that stack is actually not an option right now. That's because that has to do with something having two or more things. You can stack them together. I'm going to leave it like I have, you can kind of see there's a few things in here. That's because it's a stack. There's all kinds of stuff in there. So it's a way to organize. But that's what you can do there. And then there's preview, share, and then duplicate. I'll just show you duplicate real quick. Duplicating, and then delete. So I'm going to delete one of those. And it gives you a confirmation. Do you want to delete this? Yes. Or cancel or delete. This cannot be undone. So it's nice that they do that. Delete. So you don't accidentally delete something. But, could go into more detail about this, but I don't want to spend too much time on this. I'm actually just going to delete these because I don't need them. I've seen them already. They're very nice. Not something I could do. But, those are the sample artworks they give. So you can see there was select, which I used to select one of those. Import, you can import a file. Here, I'll show you. You can import either a file. That's what import is. I don't actually have any files in my iCloud on this account. And then you can import a photo as well from your photo gallery in your iPad. You can do that. I'm not going to do that right now. So here's a plus sign. So anytime you see a plus in this app, pretty much means new. So this is new, and it would be new canvas. See, new canvas. Now you see they have a bunch of things in here. Now some of these are things I made, because you can make your own. Some of them came with Procreate. You'll see a bunch when you download it. I actually deleted some of them though that they have because I didn't need it. But you see I made a bunch, different sizes. So you can do either by pixels, which is px, millimeters, centimeters. I don't think there's any centimeters on here, or the inches, which is the quotation marks. And then the other thing that's right on the right here, the other thing is this is the color profile. So you see there's an RGB, even though it says S before it, and a CMYK. So there's differences between those two things. RGB is mainly for digital stuff and screens, so stuff you would put on a website, or you want to show up on like social media or something like that. That would be something people are looking at through a screen, so you'd use RGB for that. CMYK is stuff you want to print, so that's usually the colors that your printer has: cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. So that's what your printer would use, like a certain amount of cyan, a certain amount of yellow, to print something. So when you want to print something eventually from whatever you're making, you're going to want to use CMYK if possible. They didn't actually have that for a while on here, but it's something they added a couple of years ago now, I think, maybe 2 years ago. It was all RGB before that. So RGB is red, green, blue. But you can see, like, I have different things, like different envelope sizes and card sizes and social media sizes for different things. So, like, things that I make. So, I made those ahead of time, and you can save them. And I'm going to show you. So this plus sign that's actually in the new canvas thing, and it's in. It's in the new canvas. This plus sign is in the new canvas thing, and it's in this little rectangle. That means new canvas, a different, like, you're going to make your own. So click on that, and you can make whatever size you want. So over here is the different things you can use for size, and right now it's on pixels. That's the automatic thing it picks. But you can also do inches, like whatever width and height you want. Let's just do 5x7 for now. 5x7. So DPI I keep at 300 because that means it's dots per inch, so it's going to be good quality. The file size is probably a little bigger. If you want to reduce the file size, you might want to make that smaller, but I keep it at 300. So maximum layers you can't actually change. That changes with your parameters here. And if you don't know what layers are, we'll talk about that in a minute. So that's, what you can do here. Like you said, you can pick the units and then how much, and then, if you mess up, backspace, and then next will take you to the next thing. See? And then done. And then, so color profile is, like I said before, there's RGB and there's CMYK. And I usually just pick the first option out of both of these. I don't actually know enough about the other ones myself. I don't know the difference. So I'm usually good with the first one. So, or the second one on this one too is pretty good. Ooh. Careful, they're a little slippery. All right. Let's just pretend it's CMYK this time. These other two things I don't really mess with when I'm making a canvas. Time-lapse settings though, so when you're doing an artwork on your canvas, it's actually going to take a video of everything you do, and there's a way to go into your settings once you're in the canvas to watch your video if you want to. I'm actually going to show you that, but you can pick if you want like a higher quality video, you could do that. And I usually use it on, I usually do 1080p, and I usually do good quality. That's good enough for me. And then canvas properties. These are things you can change actually in the canvas, but if you know that whatever you're making from this size is going to be the same every time, you could change it ahead of time without having to change it. But I'm just going to leave it where it is. I usually just mess with dimensions and color profile when I make one. You can also, so you click on Untitled Canvas and you can change the name. So I'm just going to write test for now and then create. So this will open up a canvas with the sizes you put in. And I put in 5x7. You can pinch to move it around like I'm doing. There's a bunch of other gesture kind of things you can do, which are actually in the settings, which you can look at. A couple things you need to know here. Let's see. So this is the canvas. It's going to look this way every time. And then it'll have your little size of artboard or whatever you want to call it. Canvas, I guess. On screen. So just to, before going into anything, just to kind of show you, so this that's highlighted, the little paintbrush, is your brush that you're gonna use to make art, whatever art you're making. Then this is like a smudge tool, the little finger. So if you want to smudge it, make it a little smudgy, messy, what other word am I looking for? Like if you want, there's a way you can do like watercolors and stuff like that, and that helps. Erasing is this next one, this eraser. So if you make a mistake and you want to erase it, there's also an undo button. We'll get there. This is the layers button, which again, I'll get to that if you don't know what I'm talking about. And right here, this circle here, this is the color. I don't know if it has an official name, color something, color drop, color something. Anyway, we're going to talk about color in a minute, but that's where you pick the color. Then gallery, like I said, that'll take you back to the gallery when we started. This wrench is like settings, and there's a bunch of stuff in there. This is a little more complicated. I'm not going to go into it too much, but it has a bunch of other like extra kind of things you can do, like blurring and stuff like that. This is a selection tool, so you can select your art and you can kind of move it around, which is something kind of cool with digital art that you can do. And then this actually selects whatever's on the canvas, this little arrow. So if whatever you draw, the whole thing, if you want to select the whole thing, you can just hit that and it'll select the whole thing, and then you can do different things with it. And I'll show you that in a minute. This over here, in your settings, you can actually make it on this side if you want. I keep it on this side. But this is going to be the size of your brush. So whatever brush you're using, if you want to make it bigger, you can use that. On the bottom here, this is going to be opacity. I'm going to show you more about all this. I'm just explaining what everything is. But like the opacity of your brush, of your color, I guess I could kind of show. So we're using that blue color right now, that navy blue. And then bringing the opacity down, you see it's more transparent because it's less opaque. So I actually don't usually use that. If there's another way to change the opacity of like an entire layer that I use. But anyway, okay, so now that we've drawn something, this little arrow here is undo, and this one is redo. And there's another way to do that. I'm going to show you right away. Oops. You hit with 2 fingers, it'll undo, and you hit with 3, it'll redo. And you can change that in the settings too if you want. And then last thing I'll show you real quick is this thing. If you hit this, it comes up with an eyedropper kind of thing. And if you bring it over whatever's on your canvas, it'll tell you what color you used for that in case you lost it. And then it'll just select the color for you. See, that's a different color now. So that's it for that. I'm going to talk about a few more things in a minute. All right, as you can see, I'm back in the gallery. I deleted the canvas we made. And what do I want to show you first? Go back to this. And this one that's pinned at the top is screen size. That'll just give you one that's as big as the whole screen. And that's what I usually use to kind of teach things. Let's not go there yet. So let's start here with the brushes. So, well, first of all, so this is actually a brush that I made myself. You're not going to have these. The ones you will have are all of these down here, the sketching, inking, drawing, etc., down to water. The ones with a little swoosh like this, that's part of the Procreate logo, those are ones that I made. Like you can make little categories, you can organize them like I did. And the little swoosh over here is ones that I made too. So, and they also have recent, so you can hit that and it'll give you whatever ones you used recently, which is nice because sometimes you're switching brushes and you forget which one you use. Obviously you can make your own brushes, you can make your own categories over here. I'm not going to do that. That's going to be a completely different video. We'll talk about doing that. But I'm going to stick to using the ones that you might have on your thing. So I'm just going to go for I guess I'll use the Studio pen here. And I am gonna change the color. I'm gonna change it back to this darker blue. And I'm gonna get back to the color and talk more about that in a minute. But, so I just wanna show you some of the things you can do with the brush. I did show you, you can increase the size, but I'll show you again. I didn't really show you, I just told you. So I'm gonna decrease the size and you can see, you know, it makes it smaller. So I'm gonna undo with my fingers. I showed you the opacity already. I showed you the eyedropper. Here, I'm gonna just draw something real quick and then I'll show you the smudge tool. So if you select it real quick like that, it's not gonna come up with the menu, but if you hit it twice, this will give you an option to pick a brush to smudge with. You can change the brush you smudge with. You can use the same one that you used for the brush, or you can just pick one. Like this one is more smudgy, so I tend to use that one. But you can smudge it around, you know, like the paint is wet and you wanted to smudge it and give it this rough kind of look. And then just to show you, you can do the same with the eraser. So I selected it and it's selected, but then if I hit it twice, I can pick a brush. And I usually use the airbrush because it's a good, ooh, that's very small. I didn't know it was that small. Why isn't my pencil working? There we go. All right. So yeah, you see you can erase. Now, one thing I wanted to show you, I'm gonna go real quick into this layers here and I'm gonna talk more about this, but it always comes up with one layer, layer one here, and a background on your canvas. You can change the color of your background if you want to on here. Or if you hit this little square here, it'll take it away. And you see there's still a little blue there, I think you can see. That's because there's no white background anymore, but you can still see the blue because that's on a separate layer. So you can't actually draw on the background layer at all. That's kind of locked in there, but you can turn it off if you want. Or you can change the color. So you can add more layers on top of each other. We're going to do that in a minute, but I just wanted to show you if you take away the background, you know, it's there. What you painted is still there on the layer. And just something to keep in mind. So when, let's say you have the white background on and you think you want to erase, if you were to use like a white, it may look like it's erased, you know, because you're painting with white. But actually, if you take away the background, you see you have white paint there because you didn't actually erase, you painted with white. Even though it kind of erased because you have a white background, if you take the background away, you know, you're painting, you're not actually erasing. That's why you need to use the eraser tool. That's just one thing I wanted to show you. Let's see what else. Let's erase this. And wait, let's redo that. All right, so we'll talk about layers a little bit. So this is a layer here that it always starts out with one. You can add another one right here with the plus. Like I said, a plus means new all the time. And it always adds it above the layer that is selected. So you can select a layer by, you know, hitting it like this, and whatever one you select is the one you're going to start drawing on. So if you draw on this one now, this is going to be a completely different layer. We'll leave it white since we don't have background anyway. And you see, like, you know, I'm drawing there, or I'm drawing on top of here. And then if you turn layer one off, all of that is still there because that was layer two. Turn layer one back on, turn layer two off, you're back to layer one. So you see they're on different layers. So I know it's a hard concept to understand if you're not actually doing a project where you need layers. And I don't have anything for this video where I can show you why you would want to do that. That's going to be a different video. I'm just showing you where everything is and what kind of you can do with it if you want to play around. So one other thing you can do is you can select a layer, like hold it down, and then bring it underneath layer one. And did you see what happened when I did that? Layer one is actually on top now. So the blue is on top of the white here. And this is smudge, so it's kind of transparent, so you can kind of see through it, and you can see that it's above it, but it's not showing up as well. So you can move layers on top of each other like that. Like if you, sometimes I make a background layer that's not actually on the background here because you can't draw in the background. So if you want to do something special in the background rather than just a color, you can make your own background layer, and then you'd have to like bring it all the way to the bottom because it's the background and you want it all the way on the bottom. So that's something that you can do. You can move them around. I'm going to move it back on top right now. So another thing you can do is if you select it and then you hit like the picture of what it is, it'll come up with this menu. There's a bunch of different things you can do here. You can rename the layer, which is a good idea if you want to keep things straight. Right now I'm not doing that, but if you hit that, you can type something in and it won't come up as layer 1 anymore. It'll be whatever you said. You can select the layer this way. There's different reasons for doing that. I'm not going to get into it right now. You can copy it and then paste it somewhere else. You can fill the layer with color like that. And then we'll go back. You can clear the layer like that. And that takes away the whole thing. And alpha lock and mask are both a little more complicated. Invert inverts the coloring. And then reference is something a little more complicated too, so I'm not going to talk about that right now. Now I just wanted to show you, if you select the one above this, there's a little more in the menu because there's more things you can do because it has to do with all the layers underneath it sometimes. Like there's a clipping mask now instead of just mask. Those are things we're going to talk about in another video. And there's also merge down and combine down, so that has to do with merging layers and stuff. So I'm not going to do any of that right now, but that's just kind of explaining what they are. So another thing you can do, let's see. You have this one selected, and then you hit this one and move it, or not hit it, but touch it and move it to the right so that the left is kind of exposed, and you let go of it. It'll show you that it's kind of selected as well. It's a different color, but it's selected. Now I came up with delete or group. So you can group them like this. So now they're in their own group. And that's nice if you have like a couple things that you want to be kind of in the same area, like in the layers on your artwork, but you still want them separate. And you can move the whole group instead of moving a layer. You can move a whole group underneath other things. I know we don't have more on there right now, but that's something you can do. And if you wanted, you could undo this because that's all we did, but I'm not going to do that right now. If you wanted to, you put these in a group and you decided, I don't want these in a group anymore, you can take them out. So you can, oops, I'm having trouble today. See if I can get this one. There we go. So you hold to select and move. So I moved that out of the group now. That's not in the group anymore. Now the layer 2 is just in a group itself, but you can also take layer 2 out. And now this group has nothing in it. And I kind of glossed over this, but this arrow here, like it shows up as this new group had like a few things in it and it showed up as like a group. But if you hit the arrow, it'll show you like everything in the group. But there's nothing in there right now. So this is a good way to illustrate this. I'm going to start. So now if you hold this and take it to the left, there's some more options. You can delete, which is what I wanted to do with this. You can duplicate, which actually is what I like to do when I make a group. I usually duplicate it so I have a copy of it. I have enough layers. Remember in the, when we were making a canvas, they had like the maximum amount of layers you can have. Usually there's enough to be able to have extras, where I always am paranoid that like when I change something that I'm not going to like it and I'm not going to be able to undo it. So I keep like different kind of benchmarks, I guess, of the art as I go along. Like, okay, I started doing this, but I don't like it anymore. I want to go back to this and try something else or whatever. So that's what that's good for. But anyway, and then you can lock as well. You know, that's just if you want to just protect it and not be able to move it or delete it or anything by accident. I mean, I don't typically use that, so I'll delete it. So you can do those with the layers too. It's the exact same. I didn't mean to select those. Okay, so I'm trying to think if there's something else I want to do here. Not at this point. I'm going to be talking about layers in another video and more things you can do. So I think that's it for layers. Now let's talk about the color. So there's 5 different options down here of ways that you can find a color that you like. And this is the disc. So this is what they mean by disc, this thing. So this, if you go around, it's all the different colors or hues, that's what they're called. And you can pick whatever hue you want, and then you use this circle to find the saturation and the brightness that you want of the color. And then you see history here. This actually doesn't show up on all iPads. It's only the bigger ones. I don't know where the cutoff is, like which one has it and which one doesn't. I know my last iPad that I had didn't have it, but this one does. But this is just like every brush or every color you've used, for the last how many or whatever. So in case, you lose your color again, I mean, you could use the eyedropper, but you could also go back into here and see, oh, that's the color I had. That's the one I want. So they have that on some iPads. This palette thing is actually, we'll get there. We're going to talk about palettes, but it shows up on the bottom of every one of these. And that's where you can kind of save colors too. So you see I've saved a few here. This is the color that's selected right now. You just hit one of the squares and it'll save it for you. So that's another way, if you're using something on a canvas, you can just, oh yeah, that was the color I was using, and pick it. So that's that. Then you go to classic, and this is, I've seen this on Microsoft Word and Excel and stuff, and this is more of a typical way that most people know when they pick a color or whatever, a custom color in a lot of different programs. But you see, you move up and down, that's changing the brightness. Left and right, that's the saturation. But you can't select anything on the square to do this. You have to do it here for the hue. So this will take you to different colors. Red, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, and another red. Now the only thing up here that I didn't mention, you see this is the same color as this. This is your primary color on your brush. This is a secondary color. And the secondary is usually, like you can pick it if you want. There's some brushes that you use the secondary color. Those are more advanced brushes. Otherwise you can, there's a way to switch it. Like, it's actually annoying sometimes when you're drawing something and it'll switch to your secondary color and you're like, why did it do that? I think there's a way you can adjust that in settings. I don't actually typically bother with it. I just go back to the color. I'm like, But anyway, I'm going to skip harmony for a second. I'm going to go to values. So this is, again, up here you got hue, and that'll take you through the different hues you can get, and then there's saturation, so how saturated the color is, and then brightness, so if it's really dark or if it's really light. And then this, because we have an RGB canvas, not a CMYK, this is how much red is being used, how much green, how much blue. And this number here is like the code that is given to that exact color with all of this specifications here. That's the code that means all of this, like whatever color you have selected. So that can be useful if you're drawing something and you're trying to teach someone, you can be like, oh, this is the exact code. You can just enter that in. So you hit there and you just type it in. Or if you take it into a different program that uses this hexadecimal thing, like I know you can do that on Canva. I've done that myself. Take the exact color I have in Procreate and then put it on Canva. I do that for my logo, actually. But that's all there. All right, so then harmony, I'll go back to that. Now there is, I'm going to go back to complementary here. This is where you can choose the different things. So you see the one we have selected is this red, but if you move it, this complementary color to that color, which means opposite on the color wheel, is coming up. So then you can kind of, if you wanted to, you can pick that color and put it in your palette or put it as your second color or whatever. So, you know, that's something you can do. Now there's complementary, then there's split complementary, which is the next TWO, next TWO, next TO, your complementary color to whatever you picked. So, you know, this would be like right here normally for complementary, but it's picking the next ones to the color that's complementary to your color, if that makes sense. All right. Then there's analogous, which is the ones that are next to the one you picked, not your complementary. And that's if you want more of a monochrome or kind of monochrome kind of thing. Triadic gives you, you know, a third of the way around your color wheel, which when you're using RGB, you know, that works out pretty well because RGB are like the primary colors of the, you know, RGB color profile. And then these are all the opposites. And then tetradic, I guess. That's like, you know, a fourth of the way around. So you get a different, but they're all like, they all kind of go together like very nicely, which is, you know, the whole point of the color wheel. So that's how you can pick your own colors. There's different ways. Now, if you want to go to palettes, so you saw the one that was, it's now up here, but it was down here on the other ones. You can kind of select one out of these. Now, some of these came with Procreate, or I might have deleted the ones that came with Procreate. I have, you know, gotten ones from other places and I've made my own in here. You can delete them, you can add, you can make your own, you can make a new one, whatever you want to do. So that's color. Okay, I'm back. I'm just going to put the background color back on. So I just want to show a few more things. Up here, if you go to settings, there's a couple different things you can do. Usually it starts out an ad. You can insert a file, and that is like a Procreate file, or they do other, you can insert it like a PDF or a PNG or JPEG or stuff like that. Anything you can export, you can import in here. You can also insert a photo. You can take a photo if you want to take one with your camera. You can add text. So that's something that, you know, I'll talk about more, but I'll just do it real quick. So but you see, and you can go, you can have all different kinds of fonts that you have loaded onto your iPad, whatever you have loaded, it'll come up in here. And then, you know, you can do all kinds of changes like size, kerning, if you know what that is. Tracking, leading, baseline, opacity. And you can do left, center, right. This is like paragraph form. Underline, outline. Oh, that's vertical. That's what that is. And then you can make everything capital if you want. All right. So you can use fonts. It'll come up in its own layer. Something that I'll mention, even though I'll talk about this more when I do like a project with fonts. If you go to here, you see you have the option to rasterize, and that's because I didn't mention this yet, but Procreate is a raster program, which means it's based on like pixels rather than a vector program, which is based on connecting points through a path. And the difference is raster, you can't really because it's raised on pixels, you can't really make it bigger than it is without losing some of the quality. So you want to try and start out with something big enough for what you're doing, whatever that is. So that's why it's important to get the sizing right. But anyway, fonts are vector because you can make them different sizes, you can make them bigger and whatnot. So in order to do certain things to the layer, you're going to have to rasterize it. So you want it to get, the size you want, and then you want it rasterized, and that means it's rasterized. So you see it came up now where it's coming up like a layer there, and you can move it around and stuff. But if you make it bigger, hold on, I think I'm making the whole canvas bigger. That's not what I want to do. If you make this bigger, I mean, you can't really tell, but you kind of see it's getting a little like pixelated on here, where it used to be kind of smooth because it was down when you typed it in. So that's something to keep in mind. You don't want to rasterize it until you know that's the size you want. But that's font real quick, adding text. And then you can do cut copy and copy canvas. It's all pretty explanatory. If you go to canvas, now this is, you can actually resize your document or your canvas size if you have to. But you can't change the color profile from here. You have to do that when you make the canvas. So if you wanted CMYK when this is RGB, you wouldn't be able to do that. You'd have to start all new. And then some of these things we're not going to go over right now, but animation assist, so you can do animations on Procreate. That's something I'm going to do in a separate video. And then page assist is, more complicated. I'm not going to deal with that. We'll get to drawing guide in a minute. I just want to go kind of over this stuff. I'm going to go all the way to the bottom, canvas information. If you click that, first of all, you can title, this untitled artwork. You can title it at something so it's easier to organize. You can put your name in here so no one can, claim that they made it if you're worried about that. And you can also sign if you wanted to. And then it'll tell you like the exact dimensions, and this is the physical width and height and DPI. And then, it tells you about your layers. So we can have a maximum of up to 115 here. And we've used 3, so we still have 112 left. So you can see, depending on what you're making, you might want more layers. But, color profile, you can't change from like an RGB one like this to CMYK, but you can change within RGB if you wanted to. Video length, this is your time-lapse video. So we haven't really done that much on the canvas, so there isn't going to be much on there, but I am going to show you it in a minute, not from here. But this gives you like all the kind of data that if you want to be real nerdy about all this. And then this is like, we made 10 strokes. Took us 25 minutes and the total file size. So it tells you everything you want to know about it. And you can hit done. Now with this, here, you can flip the canvas horizontal or vertical. Reference is if you want to take something, and we'll work on this in a more complex video, but it's if you want to see something while you're drawing, if you want to reference something like a picture, you can upload your own picture and have it like to the side here, and then if you're trying to draw the same thing, or they actually have like technology where you can actually put your face on the camera and you can draw things on your face, which is kind of cool. Not going to do that right now. And you can also import a file that you can reference as well. So that's what you can do there. So then drawing guide I want to show you. And you can edit drawing guide once you have it selected. And these are the 4 options you have for drawing guide. Always starts off on 2D grid. Then you have options down here, like you can increase the opacity, the thickness of the lines, the grid size, and also for any of these, and pretty much any number, like anything you're trying to change like this, you can click on the number and put in whatever you want. Maybe when I hit click done, it'll go away. Anyway, the other thing I wanted to show you is this at the top is the color. So if you're on a lighter background, you're going to want a darker color, but if you're on a darker background, you're going to want a lighter color so you can see. And a common thing that happens to me, and I'm sure it happens to other people too, if you're trying to hit this done button here, sometimes I accidentally click underneath, and then of course it's not doing it now. Okay. So I'll click this accidentally, and then I'm like, where did my grid go? Oh, that's right. I click the color. Is this not where it's supposed to be? Anyway, oops, I clicked the color. So then I'll drag it back. You can use your finger too. For some reason the pencil's not working, right? And I just did it again, but that's all right. Because you basically saw that. But you can use, like, you know, a graph paper. You can use a graph paper. So anyway, so there's 2D grid, and then there's isometric, which you can use to make 3D stuff. Perspective, which is also a version of 3D. So you can click a vanishing point wherever you want. I don't actually work with this very much, but you can change the opacity and everything of these as well. And then the last one here is symmetry. This one's a little more complicated. So if you hit options here, there are a bunch of different things. There's vertical, horizontal, quadrant, and radial. And then you have options for rotational and assisted drawing. I usually leave assisted drawing on. I'm going to show you real quick how to do, how there's differences here. So this is vertical. And we're going to draw something. You see there's a line here. So apparently I'm not on the right layer. Oh, it is on this one. Interesting. Okay, well, let me take this off. Let me go back to the drawing guide real quick. Okay, symmetry, vertical. Okay, we're good. All right. So, you know, just drawing stuff. And you see that, you know, it gets copied over there on that side, whatever you draw here, and same on this side. If you're drawing something on this side, it'll get copied over there. Now, the difference with rotational symmetry is, let me just get a different color real quick. If I start up here, it'll start down here. Instead, it'll start like opposite. Rather than just the mirror image over the line, it'll do a mirror image, but also flipped over the line. So, just so you know. And you have that option for a bunch of different things here. So that was vertical. Horizontal is the same, except it's horizontal. Here's quadrant, and I'll leave the rotational symmetry on for right now. You know, you can see what that does. And then I will turn it off and show you the difference. And then radial. And then one more. So you can do all kinds of cool things with that. Much cooler than that. First I'm gonna edit this, turn this off, and then I will just turn the drawing guide off altogether. So that's that. All right, so then going back here, next option is share. So when you're done with your little artwork, you can share it. And you're either going to share like the image that's on your canvas, then that depends on how many things you have selected, how many layers. So if you wanted both of these visible in your picture together that you're saving, you would make sure both the layers are on and then export it as one of these files. Now Procreate is actually the entire Procreate file, so it'll save all your layers, you know, your time-lapse video, everything will be saved in a Procreate file. And then you can upload it back in when you're ready to do more, if you need space on your iPad or something. This is Photoshop, PDF, JPEG, PNG, and TIFF. And then there's also an option for layers. So that's if you wanted to save your layers independently. So you can do that as a PDF, like 2 different PDFs for each layer. I mean, 1 for each layer, 2 total. And then you can do PNG files, which PNG are if you want no background. So like for transparency kind of things. And then this is when you do animations. So, and that has to do with your layers. So obviously, again, I'm not talking about that in this video, but that is something you can do. And then the next option is video. So that's going to be your time lapse. And again, we didn't really do that much, but I'll show you. So it keeps a video of everything you've done on the canvas. So if you want to if you go back, you can export it, and then you can kind of like be like, this is how I drew this, and show the video. And you have the option to turn it off here if you want. I always leave it on. And now there's preferences here. There's a lot of things you can go through. Like these 2 things to start with are the most common things. Like you can turn it into a light interface rather than dark. And this is what moves that over to this side. And I prefer it over here. So I put it over here. And then there's all kinds of other like more advanced things that I'm not going to go through right now. But you can go through and fix things if you want. And then there's help. So they have like their guide on here and all kinds of things. So that's what's there. This adjustments. So there's all kinds of things you can do in here. I'm not going to go through all of them. But if you wanted to do like a motion blur, you can do that. And what you do is you drag. And this is for that blue layer. You can make it, blurry by a certain amount. And if you see at the top there, the percentage is getting smaller right now, but bigger. And so you can drag it as far as you want, like whatever it looks good to you or whatever. So that's how you do a blur. And then there's all kinds of things in here. I'm not going to go over all this, but these are all, adjustments you can make after you've made your art. Now, this is the selection tool. And there's a bunch of different options down here too. We're on the blue layer, right? Yes. So what you can do with this is you can, let's say I wanted to select this more solid part. So you use the freehand lasso tool. That's what I use most of the time, but you can do a rectangle and ellipse and automatic too. So if you click this next button here, the arrow, that actually selects it, and then you can move it around in the canvas if you want. And you can flip it like this, flip it horizontal, vertical, rotate it if you want. Fit to canvas is going to make it huge. And then, you know, there's other options down here. I'm going to go over that again in a different video. This is just an overview. So just showing you what you can do and basically what the buttons mean. So that's that. But if you wanted to grab the whole layer, you could just hit this and it'll select the whole layer or everything that's on the layer. And then you can also do that by doing this. It'll select the entire layer, and you can do stuff here too, like copy and paste, color fill, you know. And then, all right. So then that's pretty much what you can do. I don't know if there's anything else. Well, there is one thing I do want to show you. But as far as the interface goes, I think I've covered everything pretty much, except for the really complex stuff that I'm going to cover in another video. So what I'm going to do is turn these two layers off, make a new one. I'm going to put the background back on, and then I'm going to get a different pen, or brush, technically. Yeah, do I want this one? I'll use that one. All right, so I wanted to show you quick shapes and quick lines and stuff like that. So let's say you're drawing something. You're trying to draw a straight line. So what I did was I held it and then it like snapped it straight. Like in the area of like where I started my pencil and where I ended, it'll just make the line straight. And then you see this came up line. If you hit the little triangle, it'll give you an editing. Sometimes it gives you a little more options, like you can make it into an arc if you want. But what you can do is move the points around, like, oh, I didn't mean to end it over there. I wanted to end it over here, which is way off, but maybe that's what I wanted to do. Or you can make it, you know, shorter, longer, you know. So that's a line. Let's just hit the arc real quick. So it made an arc out of it, so it put another point in the middle, and you can stretch that out. Move it around to, you know, it helps you draw it exactly the way you wanted it if it doesn't turn out that way. So yes, it's kind of cheating in a way, but it's really useful when you're trying to make things. And drawing with the Apple Pencil is very different from drawing in real life. You have to kind of get used to it. So that's the lines. So then there is different things, like you can do a circle. And this pen isn't monoline. I was trying to get a monoline one. But see, it says ellipse up here. It's not technically a circle. But you can make it a circle. So you can make it into a circle, and then you can move these points around as well. But if you move them too much, it's going to turn it into an ellipse. But anyway, that's another thing you can do. And then you can also do triangle. And you see you have different options here, quadrilateral, so that'll add another point where you can make a quadrilateral, whatever type of quadrilateral you want to make. And then polyline is where you can move these points around, you know, and then you saw quadrilateral, but you can also do rectangle, and then square. It'll turn it into a square for you, and you can make it bigger or make different shapes out of it. And this probably helps when you have the 2D guide up. You can make sure it stays a square. But yeah, that's something you can do. I'm not sure if there are any other types of quick shapes. I don't think so. Like if you do this, it'll turn it into an ellipse or something like that. Intentionally making, well, that's an ellipse, but intentionally making an arc. And then you can turn it into a line if you're like, oops, I didn't mean to do that. But, you know. So that's the quick shapes. I did want to do one more thing. Probably didn't have to do that. Alright, so I'm going to actually just open up a picture. So I'll go into add, insert a photo. These are things from the last couple videos I did. Let's see, what do I want to use? Let's use this one, which I ended up making for my thumbnail for my chalkboard video. And it's not going to be exactly the right size, but that's fine. But anyway, so you can insert a picture into your art here, and then what you can do is make another layer on top. Let's change the color to a white. Also, if you double tap near the white, it'll automatically go to true white. So I'm gonna turn this a little bit. Yeah, I think I put holiday chalkboards here. Let me just, so you can write on top of the picture, but then it's on a different layer. So even if you mess it up, you won't end up erasing the picture. You'll just erase, like for instance, let's say, oops, I didn't want that to go all the way over there. So you can erase it and it's not gonna erase the picture behind it. Also, you can undo, but if I were to accidentally draw on here, and I tried to erase, it's going to erase the entire thing, which I don't want to do. And because that's because I was painting on the layer that has the picture. Now I'm painting on the one that's on top. I'm just doing this real quick. I would have spent more time on it if I was actually doing it. Oops, no, I don't want that. But anyway, just to give you an idea. So that's something you can do. So you can use it to like kind of make a mock-up if you wanted to. So let's say you wanted to paint on, you know, my front window. I don't have a picture available right now of my front window, like empty. But if I wanted to kind of plan out a mural that I wanted to put up there, I could put the picture here, and I've done this, by the way. I could put the picture here and then kind of draw what I want and see like how it would go together and if it would, you know, look good or whatever ahead of time. Or if you're doing it for like a client or something, you could ask them to send you a picture of their window or whatever you're doing, and then you could send them like a mock-up. This is what I would do, like a concept kind of thing. So that's a useful, you know, adaptation of using this. Other things I've done, like working with the grid in the drawing guide. Let me bring that back up with the 2D grid. That's gonna, so just to say, let's say, take this back real quick. I've done this a lot instead of using regular graph paper. I mean, there's times where I'd rather use regular graph paper because sometimes writing it out and having like pieces of paper I can reference instead of having to have my iPad is better. But this way I don't waste as much paper, so it's a trade-off. But if I'm planning something out, you know, I'll measure the thing and then I will make a scale on here with the squares, and then, you know, I'll draw it out, make sure that everything, you know, looks proportional with the layout and everything right on here, which is nice. So that's something I do very often on here. And other things I've done, like if you've seen, let me go back to adding a photo. I can kind of show you some of the things I've done. So I told you that thing that we just brought in, the holiday chalkboard signage, that was a thumbnail I made for my video. I don't make all of them in here, but sometimes I use either or and Procreate or Canva, or Procreate and Canva to make my thumbnails. And this isn't the correct size, but this is the one I made, you know, for this channel, for the chalkboard, and I did that right here in Procreate. So I brought that picture in, and then I drew on the chalkboard on here, so then kind of made it look like chalk or whatever. So that's something you can do. Let me actually go back to photo again, show you if there's something else I can find in here that was something I did, like the Christmas cards I made this year, I made in here, and then I brought them into Canva and I printed them. The mural for the pantry I started in here, I did the lettering in here, and then I transferred it over. I think I've gotten rid of some things since then, but here's a concept I made where I took a picture of the wall and then I put my lettering over it to see how it would look, and it turned out pretty similar to that, which is kind of cool. Is that all I have that I can show you? Probably, because I think, like I said, I took some things out. But, you know, when I did the envelope class video, I just took pictures of the envelopes and then I made different layers, and then I wrote, you know, the addresses, or I moved them around or whatever each time. So that's something I did in here. Let's see if there's something else that I did. You know, I did more thumbnails in here, like these. Like I did Assistant Chaz in here too, but this was Assistant Otto, if you remember from the Halloween video from 2021, where Otto was in one of my assistants in my video, and she's not around anymore. That's why there's a halo above her. But I made this, you know, in here, and then I just uploaded it, and I saved it as a PNG, and then I just brought it into my computer, and then I just put it in my videos whenever I need it, except I don't need this one very often because she's not in my videos anymore. But just to give you an idea of some of the things I've done in here, for the Halloween, which one? The Halloween projects video, what was it called? Kind of miscellaneous Halloween video that I had, and I made those, I made those treat signs. I made these stamp brushes in here in Procreate, which is something I'm going to show you how to do in a different video. But, you know, to just stamp around the thing, I think I deleted all those pictures because I didn't need them anymore. But maybe I'll put one in. What I did was, you know, make a Halloween orange border, and then I stamped, you know, I used the pencil to stamp my little designs around there, my little Halloween designs around the border. So that's something I did here. Let's see, there isn't much else in here that I did in my gallery, at least. So but, you know, those are all things I did in here. I can show you in the bonus footage. I'm going to show you a few more kind of projects from concept to completion, I guess, that I did in Procreate, that I started in Procreate, or at least. But those are the kinds of things I did. So it's a very useful tool, like I said, if you're going to be doing something similar. I mean, there's other applications of it that I don't use it for. You know, again, like those artists in the beginning, the sample artwork, I can't do that. But there are people that can do that, and you know, they make beautiful artwork on Procreate. But I think that's it. So that's it for this video. I'm going to be doing different videos. Like I told you, I'm doing the animations video. I'm going to do a brush related video where I tell you how to make your own brush. We go through the brush studio and I'll show you a few different easy brushes you can make. And then I'll show you we'll go through all the things you can do in the brush studio, and it's up to you to make whatever kind of brush you want. But I have that. We're going to do, a couple different projects where we kind of incorporate all these things together through YouTube. And then, there's a lot of more of the complex things in here that I didn't go into, like the masks and stuff like that with layers and all of these things. I didn't really talk about those. We'll kind of go through those in another video. And there'll probably be more along the way, but this is just the start. Again, this is for like people who are completely unfamiliar with Procreate. So this was your intro, and I hope it was informative. If you have questions, please leave them in the comments. But otherwise, let's get on with the bonus footage and whatnot, and I'll see you next week. For bonus footage this week, I've got a few examples of things you can do in Procreate, things I have done, and it's just a few of my examples. I have many. There have been a few others that I've shown in other videos, and there's a few that I will show in future videos. In fact, the next 2 videos are going to have some of these as well, but not the ones I'm showing you in the bonus. So here those are. Okay, with this project here, I actually started with a sketch on a piece of paper, took a picture of the piece of paper, uploaded it into Procreate, and then I traced over it, and then I took whatever I had from the tracing and kind of continued to conceptualize what I wanted it to look like. And it took a while, as you see. It's actually, I'll show you what I did with it, but I made this for my sister when she got engaged. I made her a sweatshirt. And I'm going to take, when I'm done, you're going to see, I'm going to take it and bring it into Cricut Design Space. I don't have a video of that part, but then I have a video of when I cut it, actually, and Assistant Chaz is helping me. You'll see in a minute. And then I put it on, a sweatshirt. So there it is before I put the heat press on it, and there it is completed. And then this next thing is just a drawing I made for a card for someone, for 2 people who got married. So I make a lot of homemade cards now. I rarely, if ever, buy any cards. And this is an example of using the symmetry tool. I'll probably do a project where I show you kind of how to do this. And then this last thing is a Christmas card that I started for this year, because I made a few, if you watch my videos. But I didn't actually finish this one, so I'm going to finish this for this year, this year, later this year. And I'm planning on all of my Christmas cards being as part of in my shop, so eventually that you can buy. But this is going to be, I'm going to be adding lights to the little string that I put around the letters, and I still have to do that. But this, I did this all in Procreate.